A single pregnant mother made a secret deal with a millionaire CEO to keep her child, but when love blossomed where they least expected, their lives changed forever. A story of redemption and unexpected love that will touch your heart. Subscribe to the channel, leave a like, and comment where you are watching from. The metallic echo of heels on the cold floor of the courthouse resonates like the beats of a racing heart. Sarah Johnson, 26 years old, walks through the hallways with her 4-year-old son Jack, clinging to her right leg, as if sensing that something terrible is about to happen. Her brown hair is tied up in a messy bun from the morning rush, and the light blue uniform of the city hospital, where she has worked for 3 years in the pediatrics department, still carries the antiseptic smell from the overnight shifts that piled up during the week. "Mom, why are we here again?" Jack asks, looking up at her with his big, expressive eyes. The child has the same dark hair as his mother, but his eyes are green like his father's. A constant reminder of the marriage that fell apart, amid accusations and misunderstandings about money and priorities. "Remember, I explained that Dad wants you to live with him more?" Sarah kneels to be at Jack's level, trying to keep her voice steady despite the lump in her throat. "Today, the judge will decide where you will stay." Through the large windows of the building, she can see the typical hustle and bustle of a Thursday morning in the city. Cars weave through traffic in a chaotic dance, while the grey sky threatens rain. At 6 months pregnant, her belly is already noticeable, even under the loose lab coat she purposely wore to appear more professional in front of the judge. Case number 1023.456.7890, Johnson versus Johnson, announces the clerk from the other side of the heavy wooden door. Sarah feels her legs tremble. 3 years of legal battles have led to this moment. Judge Robert Smith's chamber is austere, filled with shelves of legal codes and an imposing mahogany desk that seems to create an insurmountable barrier between him and the families deciding their fates. To the right, sitting in an upholstered chair, is Ricardo Johnson, her ex-husband. At 32, he maintains the upright and confident posture that has always characterized the Johnson men, owners of 3 luxury car dealerships in the affluent suburbs. Ricardo wears a perfectly tailored grey suit, a navy tie, and Italian leather shoes that cost more than Sarah's monthly salary. Beside him, Mr. John Adams, a partner at a firm in a wealthy neighborhood, meticulously organizes a stack of documents that promise to prove the mother's financial instability. "Your Honor," Mr. Adams begins with the measured voice of someone used to winning. The documents presented clearly demonstrate that the respondent does not have the means to provide the child with the quality of life he deserves, living in a 2-bedroom apartment in a small town with a monthly income of $600, working night shifts that leave her exhausted to care for the child. Sarah feels each word like a stab. It's true that the apartment in the small town is modest: 2 bedrooms, a small living room, an open kitchen, and a bathroom that always has shower issues. It's true that the night shifts at the hospital leave her tired, but it's also true that every penny earned there is invested in her son's future. Swimming lessons at the community center, children's books bought at thrift stores, clothes carefully chosen during sales. In contrast, the lawyer continues, my client offers residence in a 300-square-meter home in a suburban neighborhood, education at a bilingual private school, a premium health plan, and the constant presence of the paternal grandmother, Mrs. Constance Johnson, who is willing to assist with daily care. Judge Smith examines the documents through reading glasses. At 55, the judge has a reputation for being fair, but also strict when it comes to the welfare of children. His gaze moves between both sides of the dispute as if weighing each argument on an invisible scale. Gentlemen, I would like to hear the respondent's version, the judge announces. Sarah's lawyer, Ms. Lisa Brown, a 40-year-old black woman who works in the Legal Aid Society, stands up with a much more modest folder. Your Honor, it is important to highlight that the respondent has always been the primary caregiver for the child. During the 3 years of separation, Jack has remained under her care, developing strong emotional bonds. Furthermore, she is pursuing a specialization in neonatal nursing on Saturdays, investing in her professional qualifications. Sarah watches her son quietly playing with a toy fire truck in the corner of the room. Jack has always been a calm child, but she notices the tension in his small shoulders, as if he understands that his life is being decided in those leather chairs. The financial situation is temporary, Ms. Brown continues. The respondent is on the waiting list for a position as a registered nurse at the city hospital, which will represent a significant salary increase. Moreover, the affection and dedication demonstrated daily cannot be quantified monetarily. Ricardo leans in to whisper something in his lawyer's ear. Sarah recognizes that gesture. It's the same one he used when they were married, and she suggested any change in routine or questioned any of his financial decisions. The same air of superiority that made her realize, even during the marriage, that she would never be considered his equal. Your Honor, Mr. Adams resumes, we understand the emotional bond, but we cannot ignore that the child needs stability. The petitioner offers not only financial resources, but also a family environment. Structured. The presence of the paternal grandmother will ensure continuity of care even when the father is working. The judge removes his glasses and cleans them. Slowly, a gesture that Sarah interprets as deep reflection. The silence in the room is broken only by the distant noise of traffic and the rhythmic beating of her own pulse. Analyzing all the documentation presented, Judge Smith finally speaks, I observe a significant disparity in the socio-economic conditions offered by both parties. While I acknowledge the emotional bond between the child and the mother, I cannot ignore that the minor has the right to better living conditions. Sarah feels the world spin. Her hands grip the chair until the knuckles turn white. However, the judge continues, considering the defendant's pregnancy and the importance of not traumatizing the child with abrupt changes, I grant a period of 24 hours for the mother to present concrete guarantees of financial and housing stability. If adequate conditions are not presented by tomorrow at 3 p.m., custody will be permanently transferred to the father. The gavel strikes the desk with the force of thunder. Sarah feels her legs weaken as she tries to process the words. 24 hours. 1 day to find a solution she has been seeking for 3 years. Mum, can I have a burger at McDonald's? Jack approaches, oblivious to the weight of the moment that just occurred. Of course, my love, she responds automatically, struggling to keep her voice steady. Let's go. In the corridors of the courthouse, as she walks towards the elevator, Sarah feels the weight of all the gazes. Other families waiting for their own judicial decisions, lawyers chatting in groups, staff carrying files. Everyone seems to have their lives organized, their problems solvable. The elevator takes an eternity to arrive. When the doors finally open, she finds a tall man, around 40 years old, wearing a sharp black suit. He carries a leather briefcase and has a weariness in his eyes that she recognizes immediately. It's the same she sees in the mirror every day. Ground floor, he asks, holding the door for her and Jack to enter. Please, she murmurs, trying to avoid his gaze as she notices her tears starting to flow involuntarily. The doors close, and the silence of the elevator amplifies the sound of her uncontrolled breathing. There are exactly 23 hours and 50 minutes left for her life to completely fall apart. The elevator descends slowly through the floors of the courthouse, and Sarah tries discreetly to wipe her tears. With the back of her hand, The man beside her observes through the reflection of the brushed steel doors, pretending not to notice her silent despair. Jack hides behind his mother's legs, intimidated by the presence of the stranger who exudes a natural authority even in silence. "Is Mommy crying?" the boy whispers, tugging at her coat. "It's nothing, my love. I'm just a little tired," Sarah replies, crouching down to be at her son's height, and adjusting his hair with a tenderness that tries to mask her own despair. The man's name is Andrew Collins, although Sarah does not know this yet. At 42, he is the owner of Collins Construction, responsible for building half of the commercial buildings on Main Street. He was born into a family of engineers in the city, but built his own empire with a mix of sharp business vision and an obsession with work that cost him his first marriage. His blue-grey eyes carry the weight of someone who has always had to make difficult decisions, but today there is something different in his gaze, a vulnerability he rarely allows others to see. Andrew has just come from his own hearing in the same courthouse. Not a custody battle, but a negotiation about the visitation schedule of his 15-year-old daughter, Emily. His ex-wife, Helen, decided to move to Miami with her new American boyfriend, a businessman in the import industry whom she met during a business trip. The move means that Emily will only spend school holidays with her father, a twist that has turned his routine as a successful executive into an emotional roller coaster. "Third floor," announces the mechanical voice of the elevator. Andrew watches in the elevator mirror as Sarah instinctively cradles her 6-month pregnant belly. There is something in the way she protects her womb that awakens a distant memory in him. Helen, pregnant with Emily 15 years ago, when they still believed they would be a happy family forever. The difference is stark. Helen always had the best prenatal care, private hospital, a nursery decorated by a famous designer. This woman beside him clearly struggles to maintain appearances with a hospital uniform that has seen better days. "Ground floor," the electronic voice announces again. The doors open to the bustling lobby of the courthouse. Groups of lawyers converse in low tones. Families wait on wooden benches. Staff carry stacks of files. The smell of cheap coffee mixed with cleaning products hangs in the air-conditioned chill that contrasts with the February heat outside. Sarah quickly walks toward the exit, gripping Jack's hand with more force than necessary. She needs to get to the hospital for her afternoon shift soon, but first she needs to drop her son off at the municipal daycare, a nearly hour-and-a-half journey by public transport that she makes every day without complaint. "Mum, my backpack!" Jack suddenly stops, remembering they left his little blue Spider-Man backpack in the hearing room. "Darn," Sarah murmurs, looking at the clock. It's 2:15 in the afternoon. Her shift at the hospital starts at 4, and she still needs to pick up the backpack, take Jack to daycare, and catch 2 buses to get to work. Andrew, who was walking a few meters behind, observes the situation. There is something in the contained desperation of that woman that moves him in an unexpected way. Perhaps it's the way as she tries to maintain her composure in front of her son. Or perhaps it's the familiarity of the situation. He also knows the weight of trying to balance parental responsibilities with external pressures. "Excuse me," he approaches cautiously. "Sorry to intrude, but I couldn't help but notice that you left something up there. Can I help in any way?" Sarah looks up at him for the first time, truly seeing him. Andrew is tall, about 6'1", with greying hair at the temples that gives a distinguished look to his angular face. There is genuine kindness in his eyes, but also the confidence of someone used to solving problems. His suit is clearly expensive. She recognizes the quality of the fabric after years of seeing Ricardo wear similar clothes, but he doesn't flaunt it. "My son's backpack," she explains, hesitating. Accepting help from strangers goes against all the self-preservation instincts she has developed over the past 3 years of solitary struggle. "We left it in the courtroom." "Which courtroom?" I can get it for you. No problem at all. Jack steps out from behind his mother's legs and observes Andrew with childlike curiosity. You're really tall, just like my grandpa, he comments without filters, eliciting a slight smile from the businessman. He's right, Andrew replies, addressing the boy directly. What's your name? Jack, but everyone calls me JP, and this is my mom, Sarah. Sarah Johnson, she corrects automatically, extending her hand. Sarah Johnson. Andrew Collins, he replies, shaking her hand. The handshake is firm yet gentle, lasting a second longer than the usual protocol. Let me grab the backpack. Which courtroom was the hearing in? 5 minutes later, Andrew returns with the small blue Spider-Man backpack, handing it directly to Jack. Here you go, champ. Thank you, Sarah says, genuinely grateful. I don't know how to thank you. Outside the courthouse, the typical summer heat hits them like a solid wall. The humidity makes Sarah's uniform cling to her body, and she notices how Andrew discreetly loosens his tie. The traffic on the highway is even more congested than in the morning, a symphony of honks and overheated engines. Do you need a ride? Andrew asks, watching mother and son walk toward the crowded bus stop. My car is right there in the parking lot. Sarah hesitates. All the safety rules she has taught her son scream against accepting a ride from a stranger. But there's something in the sincerity of the offer, combined with her growing anxiety about the 24-hour deadline, that makes her reconsider. We don't want to be a bother. No bother at all. Where are you headed? To a small town first, then to City Hospital. Andrew quickly calculates the distance and traffic in his head. It'll be faster by car. Let's go. Andrew's black BMW is parked in one of the courthouse's designated spots. The immaculate beige leather interior, icy air conditioning, and discreet ambient sound create a stark contrast to the overcrowded buses Sarah is used to taking. Jack is mesmerized by the electronic buttons and digital screens on the dashboard. Feel free to play around. Andrew says to the boy through the rearview mirror, My daughter loves these buttons when she rides with me. You have a daughter? Jack asks, immediately interested. I do. Emily, she's 15. Wow, she's old. I bet she doesn't play with toy cars like I do. Andrew smiles wistfully. No, she prefers to be on her phone and complain about school. During the drive on the highway, which would normally take 40 minutes but took only 25 with Andrew knowing shortcuts, a casual conversation develops. Sarah learns that Andrew also went through a complicated separation, that he works in construction, and that he's worried about his teenage daughter who prefers to stay locked in her room rather than talk to her dad. She's going through a tough phase, Andrew explains, changing lanes with the skill of someone who has driven through the city for decades. Her mom moved to Miami, and Emily isn't handling the situation well. It must be hard for her, Sarah comments, recognizing the tone of parental concern. Teenagers need stability even if they don't admit it. Exactly. But I work a lot, spend all day in meetings and on job sites. By the time I get home, she's either asleep or pretending to be. Jack falls asleep in the back seat during the ride, exhausted from the emotional tension of the morning. Sarah watches him through the rearview mirror, memorizing every detail of her son's angelic face. If she loses custody tomorrow, moments like this will become rare, controlled by visitation schedules and court supervision. Can I ask a personal question? Andrew breaks the silence as they stop at a traffic light near the university. Sarah tenses. Sure. You were crying in the elevator. If it's not too personal, are you okay? For a moment, Sarah considers making up an excuse. Telling a stranger about her desperate situation goes against all her instincts of privacy. But something in the genuine concern in his voice, combined with the emotional exhaustion of the day, makes the words come out before she can stop them. The father of my son managed to convince the judge that I don't have adequate financial means to raise him. I have 24 hours to provide proof of stability, or I lose custody permanently. Andrew pulls the car over to the shoulder, turns on the hazard lights and turns to face her. 24 hours, until tomorrow at 3 in the afternoon. And do you have any plan? Sarah laughs bitterly. What would it be? Winning the lottery, finding a rich husband willing to marry me by tomorrow afternoon. The irony of her own response hits her a second after she says it. Andrew watches her intently, and she can practically see the gears turning in his businessman's mind, used to turning impossible problems into viable opportunities. What kind of proof does the judge want exactly? Andrew parks the BMW in front of the Rainbow Municipal Daycare in a small town, a low building, painted faded yellow with a small playground surrounded by blue fences. The contrast between his car and the neighborhood is striking. Modest houses tightly packed together, power lines crisscrossing the sky, and the characteristic smell of frying food wafting from the corner diners, mixed with the sweet aroma of local bakeries. Proven housing and financial stability, Sarah responds to his question while watching Jack still sleeping in the back seat. Housing in a neighborhood with adequate infrastructure, a minimum monthly income of $5,000, a structured family environment. She lists the items as if reciting a death sentence. Andrew turns off the engine and completely faces her. Your ex-husband, what exactly did he offer? A house in the suburban neighborhood, a bilingual private school, premium health insurance. His mother offered to take care of Jack when he's working. Sarah instinctively rubs her belly. I offer unconditional love, full dedication, and an apartment in a small town with a shower problem. The daycare is wrapping up for the day. Other mothers and a few fathers begin to arrive to pick up their children. Sarah recognizes several familiar faces. Claudia, who works as a housekeeper and always has impeccably done nails. Mr. Roberts, a retired man who picks up his grandson every day wearing the same shirt. Patricia, a single mother like her, who does her nails at home to supplement her income. Can I ask another question? Andrew breaks the observational silence. You've asked several. You can ask one more, she replies with a tired half-smile. Would you accept help if someone offered? Sarah studies his face. There's something in the seriousness of the question that intrigues and slightly alarms her. What kind of help? Hypothetical. If someone could solve your financial and housing stability issues, would you accept? It depends on what this hypothetical person would expect in return. Andrew drums his fingers on the steering wheel, the only sign of nervousness in his traditionally controlled posture. In the last 15 years as a businessman, he has closed deals worth millions, but he has never had a conversation as strange as the one he is about to initiate. Mum? Jack wakes up slowly, rubbing his eyes. Are we at school? Yes, my love. Let's get out. Sarah helps her son out of the car and walks with him to the entrance of the daycare. Andrew watches through the window her interaction with the other mothers. Warm greetings, questions about health and work, a genuine sense of community that he hasn't experienced in years in his social circle in the South Side. When she returns to the car 5 minutes later, Andrew has already made a decision that would surprise even his own corporate lawyers. I need to make you a proposal, he says, as soon as she closes the door. And before you think I'm crazy or dangerous, I want you to know that it's also a solution to a problem I'm facing. I'm listening. Andrew takes a deep breath. Emily, my daughter, is going through a very difficult time. Her mother moved to the United States and she is lost. She doesn't talk to me, doesn't want to go to therapy, locks herself in her room all day. I need someone who understands children, who can be present when I can't. And you need financial and family stability to maintain custody of your son. Andrew pauses, carefully organizing his words. I'm proposing a deal. Sarah feels her heart race. What kind of deal? A marriage of convenience, 2 years. You gain financial stability, a house in Maplewood, whatever is necessary to impress the judge. In return, you help me with Emily, create a stable family environment for her. The silence in the car is heavy. Sarah looks out the window, processing the madness of what she has just heard. Outside, life continues normally. Children playing on the sidewalk, popsicle vendors announcing their products, the distant sound of country music coming from some house. You're proposing that I marry you, she says slowly. A man I met 2 hours ago to solve our family problems. I know it sounds crazy. It's complete madness. Sarah turns to face him. You don't know me. I don't know you. How can you be sure I'm not a gold digger, a scammer, a dangerous person? Andrew smiles for the first time since they got in the car. Because you questioned the proposal instead of accepting it immediately. A scammer would have said yes right away. And you? How do I know you're not a psychopath who collects struggling wives? I don't know how to prove I'm not. But I can show you my house, my business, introduce you to Emily. You can investigate my entire life before deciding. Sarah shakes her head, incredulous. This is something out of an American movie, not real life. Real life is sometimes stranger than any movie. Andrew checks the time on the car dashboard. Look, it's 3:30. You need to be at the hospital by 4, right? How about this? I'll take you to work. You think about the proposal during your shift. Tomorrow morning, if you want, you can see my house, meet Emily, see if it makes sense. And if I decide that you two are crazy, then you never see me again, and I look for another solution. Aim for my daughter. No pressure, no commitment. The traffic on the way back to the downtown area is hellish. Andrew knows every street, every possible shortcut to escape the city's traditional traffic jams. During the drive, he begins to detail practical aspects of the proposal that he has clearly already thought through with the organizational mindset of a businessman. It would be a formal contract, he explains, as he navigates around an accident on Rebusas Avenue. 2 years in duration, with specific clauses about each party's responsibilities. You would have total financial autonomy, a separate bank account, a credit, a card, an allowance for personal expenses. Allowance? Sarah raises an eyebrow. I know it sounded paternalistic. Let's say a monthly salary to take care of Emily and maintain the house. How much? $8,000. Mariana calculates silently. $8,000 a month is more than double what she earns at the hospital. With basic expenses covered, it would even be possible to save money, create an emergency fund, something she has never managed to do in her life. And what would you gain besides help with your daughter? Andrew hesitates before answering. Emily needs to see that relationships can work, that families can be happy. She saw her mother's marriage to me fall apart, and now she's seen her mother choose another man in another country. She needs to see that not all adults abandon the people they love. But that would be fake. It would be real for as long as it lasted. Real for her, real for Jack, real for the baby you're expecting. They arrive at City Hospital at 3:55. Andrew stops at the staff entrance, observing the typical shift change. Nurses rushing through the halls, resident doctors with deep bags under their eyes, aides carrying equipment from one department to another. Mari, can I call you Mari? Andrew asks, using the nickname that Jack had mentioned. Sure. You don't have to decide now, but if you're willing to at least hear my proposal better, I can pick you up tomorrow morning when your shift ends. 8 o'clock? Mariana grabs her bag and prepares to exit the car. And if I decide to accept this whole crazy idea? Then we'll go to the courthouse tomorrow afternoon, 2 hours before the hearing. You've thought of everything, haven't you? I'm a businessman, thinking about contingencies. Is my job Mariana gets out of the car, but leans into the open window before leaving. Andrew? Yes? If this is some kind of prank or reality show, I'll kill you. Andrew genuinely laughs for the first time in weeks. Noted. She walks toward the hospital entrance, and Andrew watches her until she disappears through the automatic doors. Only then does he realize that he is proposing marriage to a woman whose last name he learned 3 hours ago, who is pregnant with another man's child, and who might be the only person capable of saving his teenage daughter from a depression he doesn't know how to combat. At the hospital, while putting on her uniform for the night shift, Mariana looks in the mirror of the women's locker room. The woman staring back at her seems different from the one who woke up that morning. She still has the same tired brown eyes, still carries the same weight on her shoulders, but there's something new, a spark of possibility that she hasn't felt in years. Convenience marriage, she murmurs to her own reflection. It can only be crazy. But as she makes her initial rounds through the pediatric ward, checking on children sleeping connected to machines and monitors, Mariana can't stop thinking about Andrew Collins' impossible proposal. And for the first time in 3 years, the word impossible doesn't sound like a final sentence. The night shift at City Hospital passes like a slow-motion film for Mariana. Between rounds in the pediatric rooms, administering medications and filling out charts, her mind constantly drifts back to the surreal conversation in the car with Andrew. At 3 a.m, while monitoring a 7-year-old who underwent an appendectomy, she finally allows the reality of the situation to hit her fully. 21 hours, she whispers, checking the clock on the wall of the brightly lit corridor. In 21 hours, she will be facing Judge Robert Smith again, and this time there won't be a second chance. The early morning brings a succession of cases that would normally leave her emotionally drained. An 8-month-old baby with pneumonia, a 5-year-old girl who arrived dehydrated, a 10-year-old boy with suspected meningitis. But today, every child she cares for reminds her of Jack, and every desperate family in the corridor reflects her own silent despair. Mari, are you okay? Cynthia, a 50-year-old veteran, nurse who has worked in the department for 15 years and knows all the staff like family, asks. You seem different today. Just tired, Mariana lies, adjusting the IV drip of a patient. I recognize tiredness. This is something else. Trouble at home? Mariana hesitates. Cynthia has always been a confidant at the hospital, but how to explain that she is considering marrying a stranger to keep custody of her own son? Richard managed to convince the judge that I can't take care of Jack. Cynthia stops filling out the form in her hand and turns completely. What? When did this happen? Yesterday. I have until 3 this afternoon to present financial guarantees or I'll lose custody. My God, Mari, and you came to work? You should be home, looking for a lawyer, thinking of some solution. What solution, Cynthia? Am I going to invent money? Am I going to move to the south side out of nowhere? What can I do in 20 hours that I haven't managed to do in 3 years? At 7 a.m, when the shift is ending, Mariana receives a text message from an unknown number. I'm at the main entrance. No pressure. For anything. Andrew. She looks out the window of the 5th floor and can see the black SUV parked in the drop-off area. Andrew is leaning against the car, wearing a dark blazer and jeans, a more casual version of the executive she met at the courthouse. Even from a distance, she can see that he looks nervous, constantly checking his phone and glancing at his watch. Who is it? Cynthia approaches the window, following Mariana's gaze. Someone who might be able to help me, or complicate things even more. 15 minutes later, Mariana exits the hospital carrying a backpack with changes of clothes and personal hygiene products. She slept poorly during the shift, taking only quick naps in the staff room. Sarah feels the weight of her pregnancy more intensely after a night on her feet. Good morning, Andrew greets her, opening the passenger door for her. "How was your night?" "Long." She gets into the SUV, noticing that he brought a cup of coffee and a pastry in a bag from the bakery. "For me? I figured you hadn't had a proper morning coffee. The coffee is at the perfect temperature, and the pastry is still warm." Sarah realizes that Andrew noticed her preference for black coffee yesterday and chose the pastry as a substitute, a level of attention to detail that surprises her. "Where are we going?" she asks as he pulls out of the city hospital parking lot. "My house in Maplewood. I want you to see where your home would be for the next 2 years if you decide to accept." The drive to Maplewood takes 25 minutes in the morning traffic of the city. Andrew chooses back roads, avoiding the congestion of the main avenues. Along the way, he explains some practical aspects he clearly thought about overnight. "The house has 5 bedrooms, he says, stopping at a traffic light on a busy street. "The master bedroom would be mine. You'd be in the room next door, which has an ensuite bathroom and a view of the garden. Jack would be in the room that used to be Helen's office. It already has a bed and wardrobe. The baby's room is between yours and Emily's." "And Emily? How would she react to having a stranger living in the house?" "I don't know. She barely talks to me lately, but she needs a female presence, someone who understands what she's going through." Andrew's house is on a tree-lined street in Maplewood, surrounded by high walls and electronic gates. It's a modern 2-story construction with a glass and exposed concrete facade, clean architecture that breathes understated sophistication. The front garden is impeccably maintained, with ornamental plants and a small pond with goldfish. "Wow," Sarah murmurs as she steps out of the SUV into the garage that accommodates 4 vehicles. "It's impressive." "It's too big for 2 people, Andrew admits, typing the code for the door that leads to the service area. "Helen always wanted a house like this. I would have preferred something smaller, cozier." The interior of the house is even more impressive than the facade. High ceilings, designer furniture, artwork on the walls, Carrara marble flooring that reflects the natural light from the large windows. Everything is perfectly organized and impeccably clean, but with a coldness that Sarah immediately notices. "It doesn't feel like anyone lives here," she comments, observing the living room that could be in a decor magazine. "Exactly the problem. Helen hired a decorator to do everything when we built the house. I never felt at home here." They ascend the marble staircase with a stainless steel railing to the 2nd floor. Andrew first shows her the room that would be Jack's, spacious, with a light wood twin bed, a desk, a shelf filled with children's books, and toys that clearly haven't been used in years. "This is where Emily used to play when she was a child," Andrew explains. "I thought Jack might like it." The room that would be Sarah's is next door. It's larger than her entire apartment in a small town, with a king-size bed, a spacious closet, a bathroom with a tub, and a whirlpool, and a balcony overlooking an internal garden with a pool and a gourmet area. "It's beautiful," Sarah admits, sitting in the armchair by the window, "but I can't imagine Jack and me living here." "Why not?" "Andrew, look at me. Really look." She gestures to her wrinkled uniform, her hair tied back with a simple elastic, the old backpack at her feet. "I wear a hospital uniform. I'm in walking shoes I bought on sale. I live in an apartment where the shower is always broken. This is another world. Worlds can be changed. They can be faked, you mean?" Andrew sits on the edge of the bed, keeping a respectful distance. "Sarah, can I tell you why my first marriage didn't work?" She nods. "Because Helen and I were never true partners. We were 2 people who agreed to live parallel lives in the same house. She took care of the decor and social appearances. I handled the money and business. It worked until it didn't." "And what makes you think it would be different with me?" Because you questioned the proposal instead of blindly accepting it. Because you genuinely care about your child. Because you work every night saving children instead of staying home complaining that life is hard. A loud noise of heavy footsteps on the stairs interrupts the conversation. A teenager appears at the door of the room, looking at them with a mix of curiosity and irritation. Emily Collins is 15 but looks older due to heavy makeup and a gothic style. Black hair with purple streaks, dark clothing, various leather and metal bracelets on her arms. "Dad, who is she?" Emily asks without any ceremony, completely ignoring basic rules of politeness. "Emily, this is Sarah. Sarah, my daughter Emily." "Hi." "Emily," Sarah stands up, offering a genuine smile. "Nice to meet you." Emily sizes her up, clearly suspicious. "You're pregnant." "I am, 6 months along." "And you're having a baby with my dad?" Andrew quickly stands up. "Gabby, it's not like that." "Let it be, Andrew," Sarah interrupts. "It's a fair question." She turns to Emily, deciding to bet on honesty. "No, it's not your dad's. It's from my ex-husband. Your dad offered to help me because I'm going through a very difficult time." "What kind of help?" Sarah looks at Andrew, who nods encouragingly. "He proposed that we get married for 2 years so I can keep custody of my 4-year-old son." Emily blinks several times, processing the information. "You're going to have a fake marriage. It would be an agreement between adults to solve practical problems." Andrew tries to explain. "Dad, this is ridiculous, even by your standards of avoiding real relationships." Sarah can't suppress a laugh at the brutal honesty of the teenager. "She has a point." "Do you think it's ridiculous too?" Emily asks, slightly interested for the first time. "I do, but sometimes the ridiculous options are the only ones we have." Emily sits in the armchair that Sarah had left, studying the situation with the intensity of someone who inherited her father's analytical mind. "And me? What would my role be in this family act?" Andrew and Sarah exchange glances. Neither of them had thought to ask the opinion of the person who would be most affected by the change. "It would be your home," Sarah replies carefully. "You would still be the owner of your space, your decisions. I would just be here. To take care of me, to be available if you need anything, or to leave you alone if you prefer." Emily remains silent for almost a full minute, looking out the window at the garden below. When she finally speaks, her voice is softer, less defensive. "My mom said I should go live with her and Steve in Miami." "And do you want that?" Andrew asks, trying to hide the anxiety in his voice. "I don't know. Here it's just you and me, and you two barely talk. There it would be me, her, and a guy she met 6 months ago who pretends to care about me to impress her." Sarah feels a pang of recognition. Sometimes adults make decisions thinking they know what's best for everyone, but forget to ask what we really want. "Exactly." Emily perks up. "No one asked me if I wanted them to separate, if I wanted her to move, if I wanted to come live with an American stepdad. And now no one is asking you if you want me to live here," Sarah adds. Andrew observes the interaction between them, realizing that in 5 minutes, Sarah managed to have more genuine communication with Emily than he had in 2 weeks. "So I ask," Emily says, looking directly at Sarah, "are you nice or just another adult who will pretend to care about me?" Sarah thinks before answering. "I don't know if I'm nice. I know I have a 4-year-old son who loves talking about dinosaurs and race cars. I know I work with sick children every day, and I know that sometimes teenagers just need someone to listen to them without trying to fix everything immediately. And would you listen? If you want to talk, I would listen." Emily stands up and walks to the door. "Dad, if she accepts this whole crazy thing, I will too, but with one condition." "What?" "No pretending we're a happy family to other people. If it's going to be fake, at least let's be honest with each other about it." After Emily leaves, Andrew and Sarah sit in silence in the room, processing the conversation. It's 9:30 on a Friday morning that could completely change the course of 3 lives. "So," Andrew finally speaks, "what do you think?" Sarah looks around the luxurious room, thinks about the apartment in a small town, the hearing at 3 in the afternoon, the uncertain future awaiting Jack if she doesn't make a decision. "I think we're going to need a very detailed contract. The law firm Adams & Associates is located on the 12th floor of a commercial building on Faria Lima Avenue, with a panoramic view that stretches from Ibirapuera Park to the skyscrapers of the financial district. Mr. Edward Adams, family and business attorney for Andrew for over 10 years, watches his 2 clients sitting before his mahogany desk with an expression that mixes professional disbelief with genuine concern. "Andrew," Mr. Adams removes his glasses and cleans them slowly, a gesture that Sarah has learned to recognize as a sign that lawyers are about to say something no one wants to hear. "Are you absolutely sure you want to do this?" "I am," Andrew replies, adjusting the navy blue tie he specifically chose to convey confidence. "I need you to draft a marriage contract under total separation of assets, with specific clauses about responsibilities and duration." It's 10:30 on a Friday morning that started sunny but quickly turned into a typical cloudy summer morning in the city. Sarah wore her best outfit, a pair of black synthetic pants and a long-sleeved white blouse she bought on sale at a department store 3 years ago. Next to Andrew, in his impeccably tailored grey suit, she feels like an imposter about to sign documents that are far beyond her socio-economic reality. "Sarah," Mr. Adams turns to her with the paternal look he uses with clients in complicated situations. "Do you fully understand the legal implications of what you're proposing? Marriage, even for convenience, creates real legal obligations." "I understand," she replies, though a part of her suspects she doesn't fully understand anything. "That's why we want everything in writing, every detail specified." Mr. Adams sighs and opens a notepad. "Very well. Let's get to the practical details. Duration of the contract. 2 years, Andrew replies immediately, with the possibility of extension by mutual consent. Asset regime. Total separation. Sarah will not have any claim to my assets prior to the marriage, and any assets acquired individually during the period remain with their original owner. Sarah watches Andrew dictate the terms with the precision of someone accustomed to negotiating multi-million-dollar contracts. There's something reassuring in the way he transforms a chaotic emotional situation into organized spreadsheets and specific clauses. Responsibilities of the female party. Mr. Adams continues to jot down notes, clearly uncomfortable with the commercial formality of such a personal matter. Andrew looks at Sarah. "Do you want to dictate your own responsibilities?" "Supervision and care of minor Emily Collins." Sarah speaks slowly, allowing Mr. Adams to write it down. "Maintenance of the household organization. Attendance at social events when necessary to maintain. The appearance of a legitimate marriage." "And on the male side," Mr. Edward asks Andrew, "provision of adequate housing in an upper-middle-class neighborhood. Financial support for Sarah and her 2 children, including food, clothing, education, health and leisure. Monthly payment of $1,600 as compensation for the services rendered." $1,600? Mr. Edward raises his eyebrows. "Andrew, that's more than the salary of many executives." "It's the amount I consider fair for the work she will be doing," Sarah interjects. "I want a specific clause. In the event of early termination of the contract initiated by Andrew, I receive compensation equivalent to 6 months of the monthly amount." Andrew looks at her in surprise. "Why?" "Because I will be leaving my job at the hospital, changing my entire life, creating financial dependency. If you decide that it's not working, I need time to re-establish myself." "Fair," Andrew agrees. "And if the termination is initiated by you, then I waive the compensation." Mr. Edward stops writing and looks at both of them. Can I make an observation as a lawyer and as a friend of Andrew? Of course, they both respond simultaneously. You are treating this like a business contract, but you will be living as a family, children involved, domestic routines, social pressures. It's impossible to predict all the emotional variables that may arise. That's exactly why we want everything specified, Sarah argues, so there is no confusion about expectations on both sides. And what if one of you falls in love? The silence in the room is broken only by the distant hum of the air conditioning and the muffled noise of traffic 12 floors below. Andrew and Sarah avoid looking directly at each other. That's not the purpose of the agreement, Andrew finally responds. It's not the purpose, but it can happen. And then, does the contract become null? Do you renegotiate the terms? Sarah nervously fiddles with her graduation ring on her right ring finger. We'll deal with that situation if it arises. Mr. Edward resumes writing, shaking his head, including a clause about extramarital relationships. No, Andrew interrupts. That clause is not going in. Why not? Sarah asks. Because neither of us is entering this agreement to be involved with other people. We are entering to resolve specific issues. And what if someone meets someone else during these 2 years? Andrew hesitates. Then we talk honestly about the situation and decide how to proceed. Very well, Mr. Edward notes. Clause for prior communication about external relationships. Now, practical questions. Where will the ceremony take place? City Hall, Sarah responds quickly. No church, no party, just the legal registration. Witnesses. Andrew checks the time on his father's inherited Rolex. It's 11 o'clock. We have 4 hours until the hearing. We can find witnesses at the City Hall itself. Mr. Edward finishes drafting the first pages of the contract and stands up. I'll print a preliminary version for you to review. But first, I need to ask, do you really believe you can make this work? Andrew and Sarah look at each other for the first time since entering the office. There is something in her expression, a mix of determination and vulnerability, that reminds Andrew of the first time he saw Helen pregnant, the feeling of about to embark on an adventure that could either go very well or destroy everything. I don't know if it will work, Sarah admits, but I know it's my only chance to keep my child with me. And I know that Emily needs stability, a female presence that doesn't see her as a problem to be solved. Then let's do everything possible to make it work. At 11:30, they leave Mr. Edwards' office with 3 copies of the preliminary contract, a detailed roadmap of what needs to be done before 3 in the afternoon, and the shared feeling that they are about to jump off a cliff without knowing if there is a safety net on the other side. The City Hall downtown is bustling for a Friday morning. Young couples wait to register newborns, business people accompanied by agents handle commercial documentation, and 3 couples wait for their wedding ceremony time. 2 clearly in love and radiant, 1 visibly nervous and formal. The next available time is at 2:15, informs the clerk behind the counter, a 60-year-old woman whose eyes reflect the weariness of someone who has seen all kinds of human dramas pass through that office. Complete documents, 2 adult witnesses, fee of $50. Perfect. Andrew hands over the documentation that Mr. Edward prepared. At 2:15. Outside the City Hall, sitting at a cafe on the corner, Andrew and Sarah share a chicken sandwich and watch the street activity. Executives have a quick lunch before returning to their offices. Mothers push strollers toward the nearby mall, and teenagers from the neighboring private school walk in groups, laughing loudly and complaining about teachers. Andrew! Sarah stirs her coffee without sugar, thoughtful. Can I ask a question that might sound strange? After everything that has happened today, nothing will sound strange. Have you ever truly loved someone? Andrew stops eating, considering the question. I thought I loved Helen when we got married, but looking back, I think I loved the idea of her, the beautiful, intelligent woman who would complement my professional life. And you discovered it wasn't love. I discovered that social compatibility doesn't replace real emotional connection. Sarah nods, understanding. I loved Richard, or at least I loved the man he pretended to be when we were dating. Caring, affectionate, interested in my opinion. After the marriage, I found out he just wanted a wife who wouldn't question his decisions. And now? Now I'm about to marry a man I barely know, for completely practical reasons. And strangely, I feel more honest about it than I did about my first marriage. Andrew smiles. At least this time neither of us is pretending it's a fairy tale. At 2 o'clock, they return to the City Hall with 2 witnesses that Andrew managed to find. Contact Mr. Edward and Cynthia, the nurse at the hospital whom Sarah convinced to leave her shift early. Cynthia is still visibly shocked by the situation, but has decided to support her friend's decision. If this is what you need to do to keep Jack, then let's do it, she had said on the phone. But if that man does anything to hurt you, he will have to deal with me. The ceremony itself lasts less than 10 minutes. The officiant, Mr. Charles Miller, a bald man in his 50s who performs about 20 weddings a week, reads the articles of the Civil Code regarding the rights and duties of spouses with the same tone he would use to read the weather forecast. Andrew Collins, do you take Sarah Johnson to be your wife? I do. Sarah Johnson, do you take Andrew Collins to be your husband? Sarah looks into Andrew's blue-grey eyes, searching for any sign of doubt or regret. What she finds is determination and a genuine kindness that reassures her. I do. By the power vested in me by the law, I now pronounce you husband and wife. There is no kiss. There are no emotional applause. There is no photographer capturing the moment for posterity. Andrew briefly squeezes Sarah's hand. Mr. Edward signs as a witness. Cynthia whispers, "Good luck," in her friend's ear. And at 2:28 on a grey Friday afternoon, Sarah Johnson becomes Sarah Collins in a ceremony that feels more like a business meeting than the beginning of a marriage. From the courthouse, they head directly to the family court. In the car, Andrew breaks the silence. "How do you feel?" "Married," Sarah replies, playing with the simple gold band that Andrew chose at the jewelry store in the mall around the corner from the courthouse. "And you?" "Responsible." "For me?" "For all the people this decision will affect." At 2:55, they enter Mr. Edward Adams' office with their marriage certificate still smelling of fresh ink, proof of residence from their address in Maplewood, bank statements demonstrating financial stability, and the shared feeling that they have just changed their lives in a way they do not yet fully understand. Richard Johnson waits in the office with his lawyer, visibly confident. When he sees Sarah enter with Andrew, both wearing rings and carrying official documentation, his expression shifts from confidence to confusion, and then to a contained fury that he tries to mask in front of the judge. "Your Honor," Ms. Lisa presents the documents, "the respondent legally married Mr. Andrew Collins this morning, the owner of Collins Construction. We present the marriage certificate, proof of residence in an upscale neighborhood, and financial statements that demonstrate adequate economic stability to provide the minor with the conditions required by this court." Mr. Adams examines the documentation meticulously. The silence in the room is broken only by the sound of pages turning and the muffled sound of Richard whispering furiously with his lawyer. "The documentation is in order," the judge finally pronounces. "The mother has demonstrated that she has addressed the issues of housing and financial stability presented as obstacles. Custody remains with the mother." The gavel strikes the table, but this time the sound represents victory, not defeat. Outside the courthouse, Sarah feels her legs wobble. Andrew holds her arm, concerned. "Are you okay?" "I won," she whispers, as if she cannot believe her own words. "I kept Jack with me." "We won," Andrew gently corrects, and for the first time since they met, there is a genuine smile on both of their faces. The apartment in the small town never seemed so small as it did on this Friday afternoon. Sarah walks through the two modest bedrooms, observing every detail as if she were seeing them for the first time, or the last time. The refrigerator with pictures of Jack, stuck with pizza promotional magnets, the Formica table where she studied for her specialization exams after her son fell asleep, the two-seater sofa bought in 12 installments from a local furniture store that still had 8 payments left. "Are we taking everything?" Andrew asks, watching her pack Jack's clothes into a blue suitcase that has seen better days. "Not everything." Sarah carefully folds Jack's small t-shirts, each piece carrying specific memories. "I want him to have his important things, the stuffed bunny he sleeps with every night, the dinosaur books, the collection of toy cars." It is 4:30 in the afternoon, and Jack will be coming home from daycare in an hour. Sarah still hasn't been able to find the right words to explain to her 4-year-old son that they are moving to a new house with new people and that she now has a husband he has never seen before. "Sarah." Andrew sits on the edge of the single bed where she always slept alone. "Are you sure you want to do this today? It might be too quick for Jack. If we don't do it today, I will lose my courage." She stops folding clothes and turns to him. "Andrew, I married you 3 hours ago. 3 hours. I still can't believe this actually happened." "Neither can I." "And what if we find out it was a terrible mistake?" Andrew looks around the small but organized apartment, the plants on the windowsill carefully watered, the photos of Jack at all stages of growth covering an entire wall of the living room. There is love in every detail of this cramped space, a warmth that her home in Maplewood never had, despite all the square footage and designer furniture. "If we find out it was a mistake, we will deal with it, but at least we tried." At 5:30, they are at the Rainbow Academy, waiting for Jack to finish his physical education class. Through the glass window, Sarah watches her son run after a soccer ball, laughing loudly and shouting instructions to his classmates with the seriousness of a professional coach. He wears a jersey from the local soccer team that belonged to his father and a pair of denim shorts. She bought 3 larger sizes to last longer. "Mommy!" Jack shouts when he sees her, running and throwing himself into her arms with the force of a small, sweaty projectile. "You came to pick me up early." "I did, my love. I want to talk to you about something important." Sarah bends down to be at her son's level. "Do you remember the guy who was in the car yesterday?" Jack looks at Andrew, recognizing him immediately. "The tall guy who has a teenage daughter." "That's right, that's Andrew." "Hi, champ." Andrew also bends down, getting on their level. "How was school today?" "We played soccer and I scored a goal. The teacher said I have potential." Jack says the words proudly, clearly repeating his teacher's compliment. "Potential is great." Andrew smiles genuinely. "I also liked playing soccer when I was a kid." "Which team do you support?" "Chicago Fire." Jack makes a face. "My dad supports the LA Galaxy, but I like the New York Red Bulls more. The Red Bulls are better." "That's a good choice." Sarah observes their interaction, looking for signs of rejection or discomfort from her son. Jack has always been a sociable child, but also cautious with unfamiliar adults, a trait she encouraged after the separation. "Jack, Andrew made a very special invitation for us," Sarah continues. "He invited us to live in his house for a while." "Why?" Because Mommy and Andrew decided to be a family together." Jack processes the information with the simple logic of a 4-year-old. "Are you dating?" Sarah and Andrew exchange glances. It's complicated, my love. We are partners. We will take care of each other. And can I bring all my toys? You can bring them. And does Andrew have a video game? Andrew smiles. I have a PlayStation in the living room. Emily plays sometimes. Wow, Mommy, he has a PlayStation. Jack's approval is more immediate and enthusiastic than Sarah expected. She sometimes forgets how adaptable small children are, how they accept changes with a naturalness that adults lost long ago. At 7 in the evening, Andrew's SUV is loaded with 4 suitcases of clothes, 3 boxes of toys and books, 2 window plants that Sarah couldn't leave behind, and the stuffed bunny that Jack holds like a talisman throughout the trip to Maplewood. Andrew's house looks even more impressive at dusk, with the outdoor lighting highlighting the modern architecture against the darkening sky. Jack presses his face against the car window, observing everything with the wide eyes of a child who has never seen anything like it. Is this where we're going to live? He asks quietly. It is, Sarah confirms, feeling her own nervousness rise. Emily is waiting for them in the living room, sitting on the white leather sofa, fiddling with her phone, with feigned disinterest. She has traded her gothic outfit for an oversized Nirvana t-shirt and ripped jeans, a milder version of her usual style. Hi, Emily. Jack runs to her as soon as they enter the house, without any shyness. Are you Andrew's sister? Daughter, Emily corrects, but with a half smile. And you must be, Jack. You can call me JP. Everyone calls me JP. Wow, your house is huge. Where's the PlayStation? Emily looks at Andrew. Can I show him? Of course. They head together towards the TV room, and Sarah hears Jack bombarding Emily with questions about the available games, whether she plays virtual soccer, if she knows the dinosaur game. Emily's answers are patient, almost affectionate, a version of the teenager that Andrew clearly hasn't seen in a long time. She's good with kids, Sarah observes. She's good with authentic people, Andrew replies. She has a knack for identifying when someone is pretending to be something they're not. And do you think she considers me authentic? I think she finds you interesting. For Emily, that's already progress. They take the suitcases upstairs, and Sarah helps Jack settle into the room that would be his. The boy explores every drawer, every shelf, testing the bed with small experimental jumps. Mommy, there's a bathroom just for me, he shouts from the adjoining bathroom, clearly impressed. There is, my love. And the bathtub is bigger than our living room. Andrew watches Jack's genuine joy, remembering how Emily had reacted in the opposite way when they moved into this house 5 years ago. She had complained that the room was too big, that she felt lost, that she preferred the old house where she could hear her parents talking downstairs. At 8 in the evening, they gather in the open kitchen for dinner. Andrew ordered pizza from a local pizzeria, 4 different flavors to please everyone's tastes. The formal dining table for 10 seems excessive for 4 people, but Jack is enchanted with the swivel chairs and spends the first half of the meal testing how many spins he can do without spilling his soda. JP, stop that! Sarah gently reprimands him. Let him, Emily interjects. I used to do that when I was a kid. My dad hated it. I didn't hate it, Andrew protests. I just worried you would fall. Same thing. During dinner, an unexpected dynamic develops. Jack asks everyone questions about their favorite topics: dinosaurs, cars, soccer, cartoons. Emily responds with more enthusiasm than she has shown for any topic in recent weeks. Andrew contributes information about dinosaurs that he had researched to impress his daughter when she was younger. Sarah watches it all in silence, trying to get used to the idea that this is her new home, this is her new temporary family, and that somehow she needs to make all of this work for the next 2 years. Mom, Jack tugs at her sleeve after finishing his second slice of pizza. Can I ask Emily something? Of course, sweetheart. Jack turns to the teenager with the seriousness that small children use for important matters. Emily, do you like living here? The question catches everyone off guard. Emily stops eating, Andrew straightens up in his chair, and Sarah holds her breath. You know what, Jack? Emily finally responds. This house has been really quiet lately. It's nice to have someone to talk to. And can you teach me how to play video games? I can, but you'll have to learn to lose because I'm really good. I'm good too. Let's see who wins. At 10 o'clock at night, after Jack takes a bath in the giant bathtub, brushes his teeth with the new toothbrush Andrew bought that afternoon, and listens to 2 dinosaur stories that Sarah made up on the spot, the house finally falls silent. Sarah is in the room that is now hers, standing in front of the window that overlooks the lit garden, still wearing the same outfit she had on at the courthouse that morning. It feels like weeks have passed since she woke up in the apartment in a small town as Sarah Johnson, a single nurse and struggling mother. A light knock on the door makes her turn around. Excuse me, Andrew appears at the door, carrying a tray with chamomile tea and cookies. I thought you might be nervous. Nervous is an understatement, she admits, accepting the steaming cup. Andrew, what have we done? We took the first step. Where to? I don't know yet, but the first steps are always like this. You take the step without knowing exactly where you'll end up. They sit in silence, sipping tea and watching the garden through the window. In the last 24 hours, their lives have changed completely. But strangely, sitting in this unfamiliar room, sharing tea and uncertainties, neither of them feels regret about the decision made. Andrew, Sarah finally speaks, thank you. Why? For giving me the chance to keep my son with me. Thank you for giving me the chance to see my daughter smile again. From the hallway, muffled sounds of Jack, talking to himself in the next room, reach them. An animated conversation with the toy cars he brought from home, creating imaginary adventures in his new bed. It's the sound of childhood adapting, the natural resilience of children in the face of changes that terrify adults. I think it's going to be okay, Sarah murmurs, more to herself than to Andrew. I think so too. And on this first night as an improvised family, in a house too big for the secrets they still don't know about each other, 4 completely different people begin to learn that sometimes the best families are those we choose to create, not those we're born into. The first Sunday of the new family dawns with the unusual sound of laughter coming from the kitchen. Sarah wakes up at 7 in the morning to the aroma of pancakes and fresh coffee, a novelty in a house where Andrew used to have only a quick espresso before heading to the office, and Emily rarely showed up for breakfast. From her room, she hears Jack telling an elaborate story about dinosaurs to Emily, who responds with genuinely interested questions and comments. The scene is so unexpectedly domestic that Sarah spends a few minutes just listening, trying to get used to the idea that this is her new reality. Good morning. She appears in the kitchen wearing a light blue robe she brought from home, her hair loose and still tousled from sleep. Mom, Andrew is making pancakes just like at a restaurant. Jack is sitting at the breakfast bar, swinging his legs and covered in strawberry jam. Andrew is at the stove, wearing an apron he clearly has never used before, flipping pancakes with the concentration of someone learning a new skill. Good morning. I hope you like American pancakes. Since when do you know how to cook? Emily asks her dad, clearly surprised. Since this morning when I saw recipes on YouTube, Andrew admits, laughing at himself. I thought it would be nice to start making breakfast as a family. Sarah accepts the cup of coffee he offers her and observes the dynamic. Emily is wearing an oversized t-shirt and shorts without her usual heavy makeup. Jack is animatedly chatting with everyone, clearly comfortable in the new environment. Andrew seems more relaxed than she has seen him since they met. Any plans for Today, Andrew asks while serving a stack of pancakes to Sarah, I was thinking of taking Jack to the park, letting him run around a bit. He's used to spending Sundays playing outside. Can I suggest an alternative? Andrew sits at the table with his own cup of coffee. How about Central Park? It's nearby, has plenty of space, and there's the planetarium. Emily interrupts, excited. Jack, do you like astronomy? I don't know what that is, Jack honestly replies. It's about stars, planets, space. Do you want to go see? Emily's excitement at the idea of showing something new to Jack is contagious. Sarah realizes that the teenager has found an unexpected purpose in caring for the child, a responsibility that makes her feel important in a way she hasn't experienced in a long time. By 10 in the morning, they are walking through the lawns of Central Park. The Sunday morning is perfect. Strong sun, but not excessive. A gentle breeze. The park full of families picnicking, playing sports, and children playing in the playgrounds. Jack runs ahead, constantly stopping to observe dogs, birds, or anything that catches his attention. Emily? Sarah walks alongside the teenager while Andrew chases Jack toward the lake. Can I ask you a personal question? Sure. How are you feeling about all this change? Emily kicks a pebble on the path, thoughtful. Strange, but good strange, you know. This house has been really quiet. My father works all the time. I stay in my room. We barely talked. Now there's movement, there's noise, there's life. And it doesn't bother you to share your father's attention. To be honest, I think he's more present since you all arrived than he was before. Like last night, he came to my room to ask if I was okay if I needed anything. It had been weeks since he did that. Sarah watches Andrew playing with Jack by the edge of the lake, teaching him how to skip stones on the water. There's something natural in their interaction that surprises her. Andrew isn't trying to impress or please. He's genuinely having fun. Can I tell you a secret? Emily stops walking, seeming to have made an important decision. Sure. My mom didn't move to Miami just because of Steve, her American boyfriend. Sarah feels she's about to hear something significant. No? She moved because she found out my dad had a near affair with an architect who worked at the construction company. Sarah's stomach tightens. Near affair? They didn't actually have an affair, but they met for dinner, exchanged personal messages. That kind of thing. My mum found the messages on his phone and completely freaked out. How do you know this? I overheard them fighting one night. It was terrible. My mum screaming that she couldn't trust him. My dad defending himself, saying nothing physical ever happened, but that he felt lonely in the marriage. Emily wipes away a tear. That escapes. That's when she decided to accept Steve's offer to move to the United States. Sarah processes the information. And how do you feel about that? Confused, because they both had been unhappy for a long time, but no one talked about it. They pretended everything was fine, but any idiot could see they were more like housemates than husband and wife. That's why you said yesterday that you didn't want to pretend we're a happy family? Exactly. I hate when adults pretend everything is perfect when it clearly isn't. They approach Andrew and Jack, who have discovered a group of ducks by the lake and are trying to feed them with pieces of bread they bought from a vendor. Gabby, Sarah uses the nickname Andrew uses. Thank you for telling me this. And you can be sure that I will never pretend that things are okay when they aren't. Promise? I promise. In the afternoon, after visiting the planetarium where Jack was mesmerized by the presentation about the solar system, they return home for a late lunch. Andrew suggests ordering Japanese food, but Sarah offers to cook. You don't have to cook, Andrew protests. It's not part of our agreement for you to be the domestic worker. I know, but I want to cook. It's part of how I show affection. In the kitchen, preparing a stir-fry of chicken with vegetables, one of the few dishes she completely masters, Sarah rethinks the conversation with Emily. The revelation about Andrew's near affair adds a layer of complexity to the man who agreed to marry her for convenience. He's not just the successful businessman who solves problems. He's also a man who felt lonely in his own marriage to the point of seeking emotional connection elsewhere. "Can I help?" Andrew appears in the kitchen, watching her season the chicken. "You can peel the carrots." They work in silence for a few minutes, a domestic dynamic neither of them experienced in their previous marriages. With Helen, Andrew rarely entered the kitchen. She preferred cooks or takeout. With Richard, Sarah always cooked alone while he watched television. "Andrew," she finally speaks, not stopping her stirring. "Yes?" "Emily told me about what happened between you and Helen before the separation." Andrew stops peeling carrots. "Oh. Is she right? Did you get emotionally involved with someone else?" Andrew sighs, puts down the knife, and leans against the counter. "Lisa was an architect at the firm. We worked together on some projects. And yes, we got closer than we should have. It was never physical. We never officially went out alone. But there was a connection that shouldn't have existed. What happened? I realized I was looking for, in her, everything I no longer found at home. Someone who was interested in my work, who wanted to talk about things beyond decor and social commitments. Someone who saw me as a person, not just as a provider." Sarah continues stirring the stir-fry, processing his honesty. And then Helen found the messages, had the reaction you can imagine, and I realized I had to choose, fight for my marriage or admit it had been over for a long time. And what did you choose? I chose honesty. I told Helen I wasn't going to pretend we were happy anymore, and to Lisa that I couldn't offer more than I was already offering while I was married. And now, does Lisa still work at the firm? Andrew shakes his head. She resigned 6 months after the separation. She said the situation was uncomfortable for everyone. Do you still think about her? The question slips out before Sarah can stop it. Andrew looks directly at her, considering whether to respond with total honesty. Sometimes, but not in the way you might be thinking. I think of her as an example of what happens when two married people look elsewhere for what they can't find at home. Is that why you proposed our agreement? To avoid the risk of getting emotionally involved again? Partly. And to try to create an honest family environment for Emily where people say what they feel instead of pretending everything is fine. Sarah turns off the stove and turns to face him completely. Andrew, can I ask you a direct question? Of course. If during these 2 years you meet someone you genuinely care about, what will happen? Andrew hesitates, searching for the right answer. I will talk to you honestly about the situation, and we will... They decide together how to proceed. I won't make the mistake of trying to hide feelings or create ambiguous situations again. What if I end up interested in someone? Same thing, we'll talk and decide. Even if that means dissolving our agreement before the deadline, even if it means that. They look at each other in silence, sealing a pact of honesty that goes beyond the contractual clauses signed at Mr. Edward Adams' office. In the back of the house, they hear Emily explaining the rules of a video game to Jack, both laughing when he inevitably loses. Sarah, Andrew approaches her. Thank you for not judging my past. Thank you for telling me the truth instead of letting me find out by accident. I will always tell you the truth, even if it's inconvenient. Especially when it's inconvenient. At 4. In the afternoon, they're all in the living room watching an animated movie about dinosaurs that Jack chose. Emily makes scientific comments about the paleontological errors in the film. Andrew explains engineering concepts when constructions appear on the screen. And Sarah simply appreciates the impossible normalcy of the scene. Her phone vibrates with a text message. It's from Cynthia. "How was your first day married? Are you okay? Can I come by tomorrow after my shift to see how you are?" Sarah looks around the room, observing her new convenience husband explaining something about bridge architecture to a Gothic teenager and a 4-year-old child who listens to him with genuine fascination. She types back, "I'm fine. Better than I expected. Please come. I want you to meet my new family." And as she sends the message, Sarah realizes that for the first time in a long time, the word family does not come with fear or uncertainty. It comes with a strange and unexpected possibility that she still doesn't know how to define, but that feels surprisingly like hope. The first week of cohabitation unfolds with the strange delicacy of people learning to share not only physical space but completely different life rhythms. Sarah, used to night shifts and irregular hours, finds herself adjusting her routine to the functioning of a house where Andrew leaves at 7 in the morning for meetings at the construction company. Emily grumbles about waking up early for school, and Jack wakes up every day at 6:30 with enough energy to fuel the entire neighborhood. "Mom, why doesn't Emily like waking up early?" Jack asks on Thursday morning, watching the teenager shuffle through the kitchen like a zombie in search of coffee. "Because teenagers need more sleep," Sarah explains as she prepares his lunch. For the new school, a private school in Maplewood that Andrew insisted on paying for, arguing that it was part of providing an adequate educational environment to impress any future judicial review. "But does she go to school like me?" "She does. But her school is harder, so she gets more tired." Emily lifts her eyes from the coffee cup she holds like a lifeline. "Thanks for defending me, Sarah, but the truth is, I stay up late on my phone and watching Netflix." Andrew appears in the kitchen already dressed for work, impeccably tied and with a morning energy that makes Sarah wonder if he injects caffeine directly into his veins. "Good morning, family. How did everyone sleep?" "Well," Sarah replies, admitting that she spent half the night awake getting used to the sounds of a different house, the low hum of the central air conditioning, the distant noise of cars on the street, the complete absence of the familiar sounds of a small town. "Jack, ready for another day at the new school?" Andrew squats to be at the boy's height. "Ready. Today the teacher is going to teach about herbivorous dinosaurs." "Herbivores are the ones that eat plants, right?" "That's right. Like cows, but giant, and that lived a long time ago." Andrew genuinely smiles. In the last 5 days, he has discovered that talking to Jack is one of the most enjoyable parts of his morning routine. The child's natural curiosity and ability to find wonder in any new subject refresh the perspective of a man who has dealt only with financial spreadsheets and construction deadlines for years. "Emily, are you going to ride with me or do you prefer to go with Sarah and Jack?" Emily looks between her father and Sarah, clearly, considering the options. "Can I go with them? I want to see Jack's new school." "Of course." Sarah is surprised by the teenager's consideration. "It would be great to have your company." During the drive to Jack's school, Emily asks questions about Sarah's previous routine. What it was like to work at night, if she was afraid to go home alone at night, how she managed to sleep during the day with Jack awake. "I couldn't sleep well," Sarah admits, navigating through the morning traffic of the West Side. "That's why I was always tired, but it was part of reality." "And now, will you keep working at the hospital?" "I don't know yet. I need to think about what's best for everyone." "Did you like being a nurse?" "I do. I love taking care of children, helping families in difficult times. But I also like being present in Jack's life in a way I couldn't before." Emily processes the information. "My mom never worked. She said taking care of me and the house was work enough, but she always seemed bored, like she was wasting some potential. And you, what do you want to do when you grow up? Veterinarian. I want to take care of animals, especially the ones that have been mistreated. Jack, who had been listening to the conversation from the back seat, perks up. I like animals too. Can I be a veterinarian's helper? You can be a veterinarian too, Emily replies. You can be anything you want. At Jack's school, Sarah observes other mothers dropping off their children. There is an obvious difference between her and the group. Their clothes are visibly simpler. Her car, borrowed from Andrew for the week, is a bit more upscale than she usually drives, and her posture carries the uncertainty of someone trying to fit into a new environment. Jack's mum, a blonde woman in her 40s, approaches, extending her hand with a professional smile. I'm Patricia, Sophia's mum. The kids are in the same class. Sarah, she replies, shaking the offered hand. Nice to meet you. We're quite close here among the families. We have a group on WhatsApp to coordinate activities, birthday parties, those things. Would you like me to add you? Sure, thank you. As Patricia writes down Sarah's number, other mothers approach. Sarah quickly realizes that there's an unwritten social protocol at play. Questions about the neighborhood they live in, their husbands' professions, plans for the school holidays. She navigates the questions carefully, mentioning Maplewood, but omitting details about how they got there. What does your husband do? Asks a tall brunette, wearing expensive gym clothes. Construction, Sarah replies vaguely. How interesting. Mine is a corporate lawyer. Maybe they know each other from the business world. Emily observes the entire interaction from the car, noticing Sarah's subtle discomfort in response to the questions. When they return to the car, the teenager comments, "They're a bit intrusive, aren't they? They're just curious. It's normal when someone new shows up. You don't have to justify yourself to them, or tell your whole story. I know, but I also don't want to seem unfriendly. Sarah, can I give you some advice?" "Sure." "These women will accept you or not, regardless of what you say. The ones worth it will like you for the right reasons. The others don't matter." Sarah looks at Emily in the rearview mirror, impressed by the maturity of the observation. "How did you get so wise at 15, watching adults complicate simple things?" In the afternoon, while Jack takes a nap after lunch, Sarah and Emily sit in the backyard, enjoying the October sun that has finally given a break from the intense heat. Emily is doing her biology homework, and Sarah is reading a book on child development that she picked up from the library. "Sarah," Emily stops writing, "can I ask you about the baby's dad?" Sarah closes the book, knowing this conversation would come eventually. "Sure. Do you still love him?" "No. It took me a while to realize, but I think I stopped loving Richard long before the separation." "Why?" Sarah thinks before answering, wanting to be honest without overwhelming a teenager with adult complexities. "Because he saw me as a version of himself he wanted me to be, not as I really am. And because I started to see myself through his eyes, which made me feel small and inadequate. And with my dad, it's different. With your dad, it's honest. Neither of us is pretending to be someone we're not." "But can you two fall in love with each other?" The question catches Sarah off guard. "Why do you ask that?" "Because I see how you look at each other sometimes. It's not like how my mom and dad looked at each other. It's interested, like you want to understand each other better." "And does that worry you?" "Actually, no. I think it would be nice if you two really liked each other, but I also think you're both smart enough not to let it complicate things for me and Jack." At 6 in the evening, Andrew arrives home carrying bags from an upscale grocery store and with a slightly tense expression that Sarah is learning to recognize as a sign that something at work didn't go as planned. "Hi, family," he greets, placing the bags on the kitchen counter. "How was your day?" Good, Sarah replies, noticing he avoids direct eye contact. Any problems at work? Andrew hesitates. Nothing serious. Just a situation I need to resolve. Jack runs into the kitchen, still a bit groggy from his afternoon nap. Andrew! Today at school the teacher said some dinosaurs had feathers. Did you know that? I did, champ. Science discovered that not long ago. Wow, they must have looked funny, right? Dinosaurs with feathers like chickens. Andrew smiles, but Sarah notices that the smile doesn't reach his eyes. During dinner, he contributes to the conversation, but is clearly distracted, checking his phone several times and responding to short messages. After the kids go to bed, Sarah knocks on the office door where Andrew is working on his laptop, surrounded by papers and architectural plans. Excuse me, can I come in? Sure. He closes the laptop. Sorry for being distant during dinner. Do you want to talk about what's bothering you? Andrew leans back in his chair, considering whether to share work problems with her. One of our most important projects is having issues with city approval. They may be questioning some documentation that was approved 6 months ago. Is that serious? It could be. If there are real irregularities, the company could face heavy fines, license suspensions. In the worst-case scenario, criminal investigation. Sarah sits in the armchair in front of his desk. Do you think there are real irregularities? That's the question. I've always been strict with documentation, but the construction company has been around for 15 years. There were times, especially in the beginning, when procedures were less meticulous. What does that mean for our situation? Andrew looks at her directly for the first time since he got home. If things get too complicated, it could mean financial instability, legal issues, everything you need to avoid to keep custody of Jack. The silence that settles between them is heavy with implications neither of them wants to fully verbalize. In a week, they've built a routine that benefits everyone, but it's based on the stability Andrew can provide. If that stability is threatened, the whole arrangement could crumble. What do you need to do to resolve this? Sarah asks. Hire an independent auditor, review all projects from the last 5 years, possibly fire people who may have cut corners. Can I help with anything? Andrew watches her, touched by the genuine offer. Sarah, you don't. She needs to get involved in my professional problems. Your problems affect our family. That makes me a stakeholder. The word family resonates between them with a weight neither had anticipated when they signed the contract at Mr. Edward Adams's office. In a week, they have gone from strangers with individual problems to people genuinely invested in each other's well-being. Can I make a confession? Andrew asks. Of course. When I proposed our agreement, I thought it would be simple, a practical solution to specific problems. I didn't expect to care so much about your well-being or worry so much about protecting the stability we've built here. And now? Now I realize we've created something that goes beyond what we planned, and the idea that external problems could destroy this scares me more than it should. Sarah gets up and walks to the office window, which overlooks the quiet street of Maplewood. Andrew, when I accepted your proposal, I was desperate. I would have agreed to anything that allowed me to keep Jack with me. And now? Now I'm invested in making this work for the right reasons. For Emily, who is finally opening up. For Jack, who is happy in a stable environment. For you, who seems lighter when you're home. And for you? For me too. For the first time in years, I feel part of something that I'm not struggling to maintain alone. Andrew approaches her at the window. Sarah, regardless of what happens with the company, I will do everything in my power to protect our family. Our family? Our family. And in that moment, looking out the window of a house that just a week ago was merely an unknown address, Sarah realizes that what began as a convenient arrangement is transforming into something much more complex and meaningful. Something she still doesn't know how to define, but that feels dangerously close to what she always imagined a real family to be. The phone call that will change everything comes on a grey Monday in November at 7:45 in the morning, when Andrew is still in the shower and Sarah is preparing breakfast for the family. The number on the caller ID is from Mr. Edward Adams's office, and something in the persistent ringing makes Sarah answer even though she knows the call isn't for her. "Collins' residence," she answers while flipping pancakes on the stove. "Sarah, thank God you answered. It's Mr. Adams. I need to speak with Andrew urgently." The lawyer's tone is laden with a tension that makes Sarah turn off the stove immediately. "He's in the shower. Is it serious?" "Yes, it is. The federal police just arrived at the construction company with a search warrant. They are investigating a corruption scheme at the City Hall that may involve several projects approved in recent years." Sarah's blood runs cold. "Have they arrested anyone?" "Not yet, but they are interrogating employees and collecting documents. I need Andrew to come immediately, but not to the company. To my office. I'll call him now." Sarah rushes up the stairs, knocking on the bathroom door, where Andrew is still softly singing a song Jack taught him. When she shouts, "Andrew, emergency!" the sound of the water stops immediately. "What happened?" He steps out of the shower, wrapped in a towel, droplets still dripping from his hair. "Mr. Adams called. The federal police are at your company." Andrew's face visibly pales. "Damn. He wants you to go. Straight to his office, not to the construction company." Andrew quickly gets dressed, his mind already working in crisis management mode. "Sarah, can you take the kids to school today? And when they come back home, it's better if they don't go out much. Journalists might show up here." Journalists? The reality of the situation hits Sarah completely. "Andrew, could this make the news?" Federal investigations always make the news, especially if they involve well-known businessmen. Emily appears at the door of her parents' bedroom, already dressed for school, but clearly having overheard the conversation. "Dad, what's going on?" Andrew looks at his daughter, torn between protecting her from the truth and preparing her for what may come. "Emily, the company is being investigated for possible irregularities. It might get complicated for a few days." "Complicated how?" "Press, questions, people wanting to know things that aren't their business." Emily sits on the edge of the bed, processing the information with the forced maturity of someone who has seen the family go through crises before. "And us? What happens to us?" Sarah instinctively moves closer to the teenager. "Nothing is going to happen to you. Regardless of what happens with the company, our family stays together." Andrew stops searching for his tie and looks at Sarah, touched by the natural way she said, "our family," in a moment of crisis. "Sarah is right. We will deal with this together." "And what if you get arrested?" Emily asks with the blunt cruelty of teenagers. "If I get arrested, I will hire the best lawyers to resolve the situation as quickly as possible, and you will stay here, in this house, with Sarah taking care of everything." By 9 in the morning, Andrew has already left for Mr. Adams's office, and Sarah is taking the kids to their respective schools when her phone rings again. This time it's Cynthia, clearly agitated. "Sarah, did you see the news?" "What news?" "It's on the news right now. Operation Foundation investigates corruption scheme in the construction industry. They are showing footage of the federal police entering Andrew's company." Sarah feels her stomach churn. In the back seat, Jack is singing a school song, oblivious to the conversation. Emily, however, pulls out her phone and quickly finds the news online. "Oh my God," Emily murmurs, reading the article. "Sarah, It says that several construction companies are being investigated for paying bribes to approve irregular projects. Is your dad's company mentioned specifically? It is. Collins Construction, responsible for significant developments in the downtown area. Throughout the rest of the day, Sarah feels as if she is living in slow motion. She leaves As children are in school, they head home and spend hours trying to maintain normalcy while obsessively monitoring the news on their phones. Andrew sends sporadic messages. Still at Mr. Edwards' office. Complicated situation but manageable. I'll be home by 6. At 2 in the afternoon, the doorbell rings. Sarah looks through the intercom and sees a young woman with a microphone and a man with a camera behind her. Good afternoon, I'm Fernanda Rice from Channel 5 News. We would like to speak with Mr. Andrew Collins about today's operation. He's not here, Sarah replies through the intercom. Are you family? Could you make a statement about how the family is reacting to the accusations? No comments to make. But the journalists do not leave. Sarah watches them from the window, noticing they position themselves across the street, clearly waiting for movement in the house. The home phone starts ringing insistently. Other media outlets have somehow gotten the number. At 3:30, when it's time to pick up Jack from school, Sarah calls Emily. Gabby, there are journalists in front of the house. I'm going to pick up Jack, but when I come to get you, we'll go in through the garage and not talk to anyone, okay? Got it, Marie. I'm scared. I know, my love, but we'll get through this together. At Jack's school, Sarah notices curious glances from the other mothers. Patricia, who had been friendly the previous week, approaches with an expression that mixes concern and morbid curiosity. Sarah, dear, we saw the news. How are you all handling this? We're fine, thank you. It must be terrible having the press at your door. If you need anything, we're here to help. Sarah politely thanks her, but realizes that the help comes more from gossip than genuine concern. Jack runs up to her with a drawing he made in art class, completely oblivious to the tension of the adults around. Mum, I drew our family. He proudly shows a paper with 4 colorful figures. This is you, this is me, this is Emily, and this is Dad. It's beautiful, my love. Can I show it to Dad when he gets home? Of course you can. On the way home, Sarah notices more journalists on the street. She enters through the garage as planned, but Jack is curious about the activity outside. Mum, why are there so many people on our street? They're work people who came to talk to Dad. Are they going to wait for him to get here? Maybe. At 6:15, Andrew finally arrives home. Sarah watches from the window as he gets out of the car in the garage, his shoulders tense, his face tired, from dealing with a crisis that could destroy everything he has built. How was it? She asks as he enters the kitchen. Complicated. Andrew sits heavily on one of the stools at the counter. The good news is that there were no arrests today. The bad news is that some irregularities were found in projects approved between 2018 and 2020. Irregularities that you knew about? Some, I suspected. Others, no. It seems that the project manager I fired last year was cutting corners on approvals, possibly paying bribes to expedite processes. Emily appears in the kitchen, going straight to hug her father. Dad, are you going to be okay? Andrew hugs his daughter, feeling the responsibility to protect her from the chaos that may follow. I'm going to do everything I can to resolve this quickly and with minimal consequences for our family. Dad! Jack runs into the kitchen, interrupting the serious moment with his natural energy. I drew our family today. Want to see? Andrew looks at the drawing Jack created, 4 stick figures under a yellow sun, all holding hands, all smiling. It is the simplest and purest representation of what they have built together in recent weeks. It's beautiful, champ. I'll keep it in my office. It's so you remember that we're a family even when you're working. Jack's innocent words resonate in the kitchen with more strength than any contractual clause. Andrew looks at Sarah over the boy's head, and she sees in his eyes the same determination she saw on the first day in the elevator at the courthouse. "Jack is right," Andrew says, looking directly at Sarah. "We are a family, and families go through crises together." "What does that mean practically?" Sarah asks. "It means we will have some difficult days or weeks. It means there may be temporary financial instability. It means our privacy will be invaded for a while. And it means we stick together," Emily adds, surprising everyone with her firmness. "Exactly," Andrew confirms. "We stick together." That night, after the children fall asleep, Andrew and Sarah sit in the living room, watching the evening news that dedicates 3 minutes to Operation Foundation. Collins Construction is mentioned twice, and there are images of Andrew entering Mr. Edwards' office in the morning. "How do you feel watching this?" Sarah asks. "Surreal. 15 years building a reputation, and 3 minutes on. TV can destroy it all." "Andrew, can I ask you a difficult question?" "Sure." "If you knew this was going to happen, would you still have proposed our agreement?" Andrew considers the question carefully. "If you're asking if I regret marrying you, the answer is no. If you're asking if I feel guilty for dragging you and the kids into this situation, the answer is yes. You didn't drag me into anything. I chose. But you chose based on the stability I offered. Now that stability is threatened." Sarah gets up from the sofa and goes to the window, watching the now empty street of journalists who have finally given up waiting for movement. "Andrew, you want to know something? For the first time since we got married, I feel truly useful." "What do you mean?" "During these weeks, I felt like I was being cared for, protected, supported. Today, I realized I can give that back. I can take care of Emily and Jack while you sort out your problems. I can be strong when you need to be vulnerable." Andrew approaches her by the window. "Sarah, if things get really bad, we'll deal with it when the time comes. Right now, what do you need to feel less overwhelmed? I need to know that you all are okay, that the kids feel safe, that our home remains a place of peace, even with the chaos out there. I can guarantee that. And I need to know that you won't decide this is too much and leave." Sarah turns to face him directly. "Andrew Collins, I'm not going anywhere. For better or for worse, we're in this together." And for the first time since the morning, Andrew smiles genuinely. For better or for worse. For better or for worse. Outside, the city continues its chaotic and indifferent nightlife, but inside the house in Maplewood, 4 people who became family by chance begin to discover that they chose to become family by choice. 3 months after the police operation that shook their lives, Sarah wakes up on a sunny February morning with a strange sense of completeness. It's no longer the desperate feeling of someone struggling to hold the pieces together, nor the constant anxiety of living in fear of the next blow of fate. It's something deeper and more stable, the feeling of someone who has finally found their place in the world. The investigation into Collins Construction had resolved more favorably than anyone dared to hope. The independent audit hired by Andrew proved that the irregularities were conducted by specific employees without the board's knowledge, and their full cooperation with the authorities resulted in significant but manageable fines, with no criminal consequences. More importantly, the scandal forced Andrew to completely restructure the company, implementing strict controls that made Collins Construction a benchmark for transparency in the industry. Mom, Jack, now 5 years old and visibly taller than 3 months ago, enters her room carrying a pink envelope decorated with drawings of dinosaurs. "Emily said to give you this. What is it, my love?" Sarah opens the envelope and finds a handmade card with a message written in the neat handwriting of a teenager. "Thank you for teaching me that real families don't give up on each other. Happy 6-month wedding anniversary. Love, Sarah feels her eyes welling up. 6 months. Half a year since that chaotic morning in the courthouse when her life seemed on the brink of collapse. Half a year since an unknown man offered an impossible solution that turned into something she never imagined she could have. "Where's Emily?" she asked Jack. "In the kitchen, making special birthday pancakes. She said they're just like the ones Andrew used to make at the beginning, but better because she learned tricks on YouTube." In the kitchen, Sarah finds Emily focused on the stove, her hair tied up in a high ponytail, wearing a t-shirt that says "World's Okayest Teenager," which she customized herself. The transformation of the teenager in recent months has been remarkable, not just physically, with less heavy makeup and less defensive clothing, but mainly in her demeanor. There's a newfound confidence in her, a natural joy that has blossomed under the attention and care of a stable family. "Good morning, birthday girl." Emily turns with a radiant smile. "Did you sleep well?" "I did. The card is beautiful. Thank you. I wanted to do something special. You do this for us every day." Andrew appears at the kitchen door, wearing a navy blue suit that Sarah helped him choose 2 weeks ago when he had to testify at the corruption inquiry in the construction industry. His testimony had been so clear and cooperative that he emerged from the newspapers as an example of an upright businessman, turning a reputational crisis into an opportunity for rebuilding. "Good morning, family," he greets, kissing the top of Emily's head and ruffling Jack's hair in a way the boy loves. When he reaches Sarah, he hesitates for just a second before gently kissing her cheek near her ear. "Happy wedding anniversary." The gesture is simple, but carries months of growing intimacy between them. Not physical intimacy. They still sleep in separate rooms and carefully maintain the boundaries established in the original contract. It's an emotional intimacy that has grown naturally. Long conversations after the kids are asleep, inside jokes, the way he always asks about her day before talking about his own, how she automatically makes coffee just the way he likes it. "I know technically our anniversary was 2 days ago," Andrew continues, "but I wanted to wait for the weekend so we could celebrate as a family." "Celebrate how?" Sarah asks, intrigued. "It's a surprise," Jack shouts, clearly unable to keep secrets. "We're going to a special place." "Jack," Emily complains, laughing, "it was supposed to be a surprise." "Sorry, but I'm just really excited." During breakfast, while savoring Emily's special birthday, pancakes that are genuinely delicious, Sarah observes the natural dynamic of the family that has formed around the table. Jack enthusiastically talks about a science project at school where he is building a volcano that will really explode, but without hurting anyone. Emily shares her latest discoveries about veterinary colleges, showing research she did on exchange programs. Andrew contributes stories from work, but this time they are not tales of stress and crises. They are anecdotes about the new team he hired, the innovative projects they are developing. "Dad!" Emily stops eating and looks seriously at Andrew. "I need to tell you something important." The tone makes the whole table stop eating. Andrew straightens up, preparing for any teenage revelation. "Mum called yesterday," Emily continues. "Mark proposed to her." "Oh," Andrew processes the information. "And how do you feel about that?" "Well, happy for her, actually. But she wants me to go to Miami for the wedding, and she also wants to talk about me spending summer vacation there." Sarah feels a pang of anxiety. Emily has become a crucial part of the family dynamic, and the thought of losing her even temporarily is unsettling. "And what do you want to do?" Andrew asks, keeping his voice neutral. "I want to go to the wedding, of course. It's my mom. But about the vacation..." Emily looks around the table, including Sarah and Jack in the conversation. "I prefer to stay here. This is my family now. It's where I want to be." The silence that follows is not awkward. It's emotional. Andrew has to clear his throat before speaking. Emily, are you sure? I don't want you to feel obligated. Dad, I'm 15. I know the difference between obligation and choice. I'm choosing you. Jack, with the emotional sensitivity that young children sometimes show, gets up from his chair and goes to hug Emily. I choose you too, Emily. Sarah feels tears rolling down her face and makes no effort to hide them. Later, the birthday surprise turns out to be a picnic in Central Park, but not just any picnic. Andrew prepared a gourmet basket filled with all the favorite snacks of each family member, a waterproof blanket, and even a portable speaker with a playlist that includes classical music for relaxation, the rock music Emily loves, and several children's songs that Jack knows. They choose a spot under a large tree near the lake where they can watch families strolling, couples dating, and children running after kites. It's a typical summer afternoon in New York, with strong sunshine but a cool breeze, a blue sky dotted with white clouds. Sarah, Andrew settles on the blanket next to her while the kids chase after a frisbee he brought. Can I ask you a serious question? You can always ask. How do you feel about our current situation? I mean, compared to what we originally planned? Sarah watches Jack trying to teach Emily how to throw the frisbee, both laughing loudly when she completely misses the target. It's completely different from what we planned. Different how? We planned a business arrangement that would benefit everyone. What happened was more than that. Much more. Andrew, can I make a confession? Of course. I'm in love with you. The words come out naturally, without drama or hesitation. Sarah says them just as she would say she is hungry or tired, as a simple fact about her current reality. Andrew stops organizing the picnic items and looks directly at her. Sarah, I'm not saying this to complicate things or pressure you about how you feel. I'm saying it because we've reached a point where hiding it would be dishonest, and you even said that honesty is the foundation of what we've built. And I said that if one of us fell in love, we would talk honestly about the situation. So I'm talking. Andrew turns fully to face her, ignoring the movement in the park around them. Sarah, I fell in love with you too. I think I fell in love weeks ago, but I was trying not to admit it because it seemed to complicate everything. And now I think it doesn't complicate. I think it simplifies. Sarah smiles, feeling a lightness she hasn't experienced in years. How so? Because it means we're no longer pretending to be a family. We are a family. And the original contract? The original contract has already been torn apart by the facts. We're living something completely new. From the lawn where they play, Jack shouts, "Mom, Andrew, come play with us." "We're coming," Sarah shouts back but doesn't move from her spot. "Andrew, what does this mean for us?" "It means that when the original 2-year term is up, we'll renew it. Not as a business arrangement, but as a real marriage. And if at some point we realize we made a mistake, then we'll deal with it the same way any couple does, by talking, seeking solutions, fighting for what we've built together. Even if it means changes to the original arrangement. Especially if it means changes to the original arrangement." Andrew leans in and kisses Sarah for the first time since the quick kiss on the cheek that morning. But this time it's not a courtesy kiss or social pretense. It's a kiss between two people who have chosen to be together, who have built something real from an impossible situation. "Mom and Andrew are kissing," Jack shouts loud enough for half the park to hear. "Finally," Emily shouts back, clearly not surprised. They pull away, laughing, and Sarah notices that several families around are looking and smiling, recognizing the scene of a couple who clearly love each other being caught by their own children. "Shall we play frisbee?" Andrew asks, getting up and offering his hand to help her. "Let's." And as they run across the lawn of Central Park on a perfect February afternoon, chasing a frisbee that Jack throws with more enthusiasm than precision, laughing at Emily's dramatic attempts to catch the disc in the air, Sarah realizes that fate has found a peculiar way to give each of them exactly what they needed. Not what they thought they wanted, but what they truly needed. A family that chose to become family. A love that grew from honesty instead of passion. A stability built on mutual trust rather than just financial resources. Sarah! Andrew pulls her aside as the kids get distracted trying to teach frisbee tricks to a golden retriever that appeared in the park. Yes? Thank you. Why? For accepting my crazy proposal that day at the courthouse, for giving us the chance to discover that sometimes the best families are those we build by choice. Thank you for proposing something so crazy that could only work. And as the sun begins to dip in the New York sky, painting the park with golden hues that make the whole city look more beautiful, 4 people who met by chance discover that they have become family by fate. The convenience agreement turned into true love. The temporary solution turned into life. The makeshift family became the family that each one always wanted to have, but never knew how to find.